Welcome everyone to the Hindu Women's Festival 2021. Today we're delighted to be joined by Ms. Manju Stalin from the Sangamam UK organization. And so the purpose of the Hindu Women's Festival is to host multiple sessions on various topics of womanhood and femininity. So, Vanakkam, Manjuji. So first of all, if you'd like to tell us what Sangamam is about.
Vanakkam Rishiji, and Vanakkam and Namaste to everyone. I'm Manju Stalin. I'm from Liverpool, but basically from India. I've been a part of Sangamam since the past 2 years. Sangamam is basically, Sangamam in Tamil means like a confluence. So it's a confluence of trying to bring Tamil Hindus together who are there in UK as a community. And the sole purpose of this community is to nurture the values of Hinduism and Tamil language and culture, and just to preserve our heritage.
Well, I for one am glad that such an organization exists. I'm Punjabi myself, but have had a very long-term fascination for Tamil culture ever since 2006. In fact, when I set foot inside what I would consider my local, it's about half an hour away, but my local Tamil Mandir, the Govil, and it opened a completely new world. And what I felt is that it's interesting that Sangamam engages with Hindu and Tamil culture. So it's essentially the way that the two overlap, the way that they express themselves together. And this is important because in the academic field, what I feel is that there's always been a lack of representation of Tamil culture and Tamil society. If anything, one could argue that in terms of the Vedic tradition, that there's more authenticity with the Tamil culture, because it hasn't, I mean, possibly a contentious point, but certainly my experience, there is a sense of authenticity. I mean, when I go to the Govil, when I go to the Tamil Mandir, the level of ritual, the nature of the ritual is so, it just feels very rich, and you can participate in certain ways. The North has its own history, of course, but there's a real underrepresentation. I'm just glad that there are things being done to present the Tamil side of things, especially in the West, because Gujaratis, Punjabis came in the 60s, and so they've kind of really defined the way Hinduism has been presented, or Hindu culture has been presented in the UK. Tamil community came later,
yeah.
But it's important that the voice is heard.
That's right.
So let's seeing as the whole session we're centering it around womanhood, around femininity. Can you share a couple of Tamil rituals centered around the feminine?
Yeah, sure. There are a variety of rituals. We know that India has a rich culture and heritage and festivals. So I've picked out two which I found quite interesting. The first Tamil ritual that I wanted to talk about is celebrating the onset of puberty in a girl, when the transition happens, when she changes from a girl and she's getting into womanhood. So this in Tamil Nadu is celebrated, and it's called Manjal Neeratu Villa. So Manjal is Haldi, and Neeratu Villa means like a function. And this reason of why we are celebrating this transition is, I mean, there are so many reasons to it. One reason is basically that in the olden days, this was a way of telling everybody in the community that we have a girl in the household who has come of a marriageable age in a few years down the line. So that's the way of just, just telling to the community that we are looking for prospective grooms. But there are other reasons which are much more than this basic reason, and they are more towards like when a girl is facing this transition, she goes through a lot of stress, maybe mentally as well, emotionally, physically as well. And at that time, to call everybody, to call all the relatives, and to get them together in the house and celebrate it like a function, and the girl is the center of attraction during this whole period of when it's happening. So that kind of brings a lot of positivity in her mind, and she doesn't feel insecure or, you know, maybe depressing because of all this that's happening to her body physically. And she gets gifts, and then she gets a lot of nutritious food, because this is the time when a girl needs to strengthen her body. um, and so she's given a lot of iron rich foods to get her blood levels high. She's given antioxidants, rich foods, which is like sesame. And the ritual also includes taking the girl is, I mean, they use haldi and neem leaves in the water, and she's given bath with that water. So these two things, haldi and neem, they have good antibacterial properties, and they are a very good cleansing agent as well. So if we look closely at this ritual, there are so many things involved for the mental well-being, physical well-being, and all these are, um, what do I say? These are all things that our ancestors knew about, and these were used to celebrate it. So that's one thing.
Mm.
Um, and there are certain practices which pertain to this period that a girl or a woman goes through, and these involve, like, keeping them in isolation, or certain restrictions on the kind of food they can have or the places that they can go and visit. But if you look very deeply into this, I mean, I've been just looking into this topic, and I found that there's a lot of meaning to it, to the reason as to why these things are being done. And it's taken a turn of negativity
Right.
by people from outside, who are trying to classify this as, a way of showing differences with the woman, but that's not the case.
Mm.
um, yeah, that's another topic as well if I go into detail. But just on a basic level, this is something that needs to be celebrated about and talked about as well in the open. um, the next ritual that I'm going to talk about is Varalakshmi Puja, which is also called Varalakshmi Vratam. It's quite common in South India. So in Varalakshmi Puja, or in Varalakshmi Vratam, it's usually done by married women, and it is done for the well-being and prosperity and for the health of the whole family, because a woman is thought to be somebody who's nourishing the family,
Yeah.
and the man is the person who provides for the family. So she does this puja for the well-being of everyone. And in Varalakshmi, there are Ashtalakshmis, which are 8 Lakshmis, and these 8 Lakshmis, I mean, Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth. But when we say wealth in Hindu culture, it's not just money physically. It's everything else. It's abundance in food, in wisdom, in prosperity. Um, so yeah, this is the woman does this puja. So she's doing it for everybody in the house. Um, yeah, these are the two rituals that I thought were the best ones to pick out.
No, thank you. In fact, the first one you spoke about, I think we have as a talk actually addressing the deeper issue
Yeah,
within this festival. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, there was one talk. If I can mention names of the people who were actually giving the talk, it's a book called Ritu Vidya, and I liked it because the person who wrote that book, she is a doctor by profession, and she kept talking about things at subatomic level which happen in the body, and these are the reasons why when a woman touches somebody, the person has to cleanse himself with water. But this is all the process of the body losing electrons and gaining electrons from elsewhere. And
Right.
there are even talks about women not going to temples at this time, but the restriction being that at this time a woman is down physically and her immunity levels are low. So if she goes to a place, a sacred place like a temple where there's rituals which imbibe a lot of vibrations and high energy,
Mm.
that is going to be detrimental to her at this time, which is why they used to tell women not to go to temples at particular 3 or 5 days. But I think it's just taken a wrong turn and needs to be addressed well in the society and explained well.
Just to give you some confidence there. There is that very topic is being addressed by someone I know who's going to be speaking in one of these sessions. So yeah, you'd be glad to know that. She's been doing kind of deep research on this. So from your childhood, a childhood story perhaps which illustrates how Tamil culture views women.
Yeah.
Anything you can share?
Yeah, sure. It's this is a story that I heard in my childhood. It's not about me, but it's about the story that I was told. I mean, we were always told stories of gods and mythological deities and everyone. But this story is about a woman who actually existed, and she is called Rani Velu Nachiyar. She is the queen of Shivagangai. And Rani Velu Nachiyar, we can say, is like Rani Lakshmi Bhai, but she existed even before Lakshmi Bai came into was born. So in the 17th century, Rani Velu Nachiyar, her husband was killed in a war with the British, and so what she did is she was thrown away from the kingdom. So she went to the forest and she trained herself for 8 years in martial arts and in all forms of combat and plans. And then she came back. She fought the East India Company, and yeah, she defeated them and she got her kingdom back. And when she when she was told to go away from a kingdom, she actually took the soil of a kingdom and she said, I am going to come back one day and fight for the rights of my people. So this story has been quite inspiring for me because it shows that even in those times, women were known for their bravery and courage, and not just as somebody who's confined to a household. And for her to learn martial arts and everything. I mean, it shows that women in India have always been, um, taken in good light. They're either prayed as deities, and there are even such good figures who have done good in history. That's good.
Okay. Now, this is something that is of interest to me. I've in my visits to ever since 2006 to the Tamal Kovil, the Mandar. For me, there are stark differences between North Indian mandars and South Indian mandars or Sri Lankan mandars. Those are my experiences, but I know we've had a conversation before, and you're of Tamil background. You've grown up in the north. You spent time in the north, significant years. So two similarities between the north and the south. Let's go for similarities first.
Yeah.
North and south cultures.
Yeah, I think I might say I've been lucky enough to see more of North, being a Tamilian and growing up in an environment where they're having their own festivals and celebrations. So it's good to be a part of the diversity that India has. Two similarities that I have written down is the first one is wearing a bindi. I'm actually wearing one right now. So wearing a bindi it's got a significance, and it is that every time you touch the middle of between the eyebrows, that's the place which is called the third eye, or the Agna Chakra. So every time we put our hands on that spot, it's kind of activating that chakra. And what it does is it's good for concentration, because whenever we do meditation, we always focus on this bit.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And it causes good every time you're touching these certain points in your body, they actually increase your blood flow as well. So this is a practice that women are doing, I think, all over India, north and south. It's become more of a fashion statement now, but this is the basic reason. And even men also wear tilaks when they go to mandir. I think that's to signify like an offering that they get from the mandir, and even the same thing, the point activating the chakra.
Mm.
Um, the second point that I would like to say is, yeah, every time we have a puja or a ritual, or every time we're going to mandir, we all dress up. Women like to dress up in general, but we all dress up and we look for the best silk saris or kanjivaram saris that we have on these occasions. Now, it's not just about, wearing silk or looking good. It's the main purpose of wearing silk, which in the olden days they always tend to wear, is because silk is a type of material. So when you go to these, to mandir or any functions, there's a lot of positivity in the atmosphere and a lot of energy which is radiated from those rituals. So when you wear silk, that fabric actually retains the energy in your body and it doesn't let it escape out. If you're wearing cotton or synthetic fabrics, all that will just go out. So this is the reason why we were told to wear heavy brocaded silk saris to keep
Right.
all that energy and that good feeling that generates after doing the rituals.
Mm.
Yeah, this is the main reason. It's quite interesting when I came across this, but yeah, it's nice that I could share this.
Nice. And two differences between the North and South cultures.
Um, in terms of differences, the first thing that I would like to say is during Navratri time, whenever there's Mata Ki Chauki, people in the north they do this puja which is called a Kanchak Pooja. So
Yeah.
Kanchak Pooja is a puja for little girls, and basically these are girls who have not attained puberty, so probably below the age of 10. And
Right.
it is believed that Durga Ma is she has 9 different forms, just like how I referred to Ashtalakshmi in the Varalakshmi Puja, where you
Mm.
have 8 different forms of Lakshmi. So these are 9 different forms of Goddess Durga. So these little girls, it's believed that during that time, if we pray to them, give them offerings, and seek their blessings, it's like um we are recognizing Ma Durga in their form.
Yeah.
So that's a very nice way that it's again demonstrating that Indian culture and traditions have been always, thinking of women as considering them quite highly and praying to them as a goddess.
Mm. So does that not feature in Tamil culture?
In Tamil culture, not with the young girls. I think the one that they do is Varalakshmi Puja, where
Okay.
they call all the married women and they are, after they do the puja at home, they offer bangles and saris, blouse pieces,
Mm.
and prasad to these married women. And the more you distribute, the more you will be more prosperous and wealthier in your home as well. So that's the little difference that I found between both.
Yeah. And the second one?
The second one, I'd like to point that in South India, the women in South India, they usually what they do is they apply haldi on the face after bathing, and
Mm.
this haldi is not the haldi that we use for cooking. It's the proper stem haldi which is there. You just rub it on a stone, and then you take that pure haldi and then you apply it on your face. Now,
Right.
the reason for doing this is it's very hot in South India, especially Tamil Nadu, being
Mm.
close to the equator. So haldi is very good as a sunscreen, natural sunscreen.
Okay.
It's got antiseptic and antibacterial properties as well. So it helps to keep any skin infections at bay. So that's why the practice of using haldi. So the women put haldi on their face and then they have this red sindoor tika or bindi.
Mm.
And in North, what we see is they use sindoor, especially married women use sindoor, not only for the bindi, but they also use it in the parting of the head
Yeah.
during marriage. So when I try to look more deeper into this, my understanding of what I got from it is that um, again, sindoor is a mixture of lime and haldi, and
Right.
I did see that it had a bit of mercury in it as well. And what it pointed out is that when they put it on the parting, they are actually closing that particular place on the top of the head, which is there is chakra as well. So it's not allowing any of the body's energies to escape out,
Right.
and is keeping it back in. And the other difference is women in the north, they take a pallu over their head, the pallu of the sari or the dupatta,
Yeah.
when they go to religious places or during rituals, functions.
Mm.
And the reason again being that any of the energies that you get from these places do not escape out from the top of your head. So when you cover that particular portion with the pallu of your sari, a silk sari, you're again retaining those energies back in for a longer time. And that's going to keep you in that divinity for a longer time once you perform the pujas and the rituals.
So in the south, the
Interesting.
sandur isn't put. Is that the case? And the
In
head's
the
not.
south, yeah, women do not put sindoor in their mang. So I don't know the reason behind it. And even the reason why North Indian women don't apply haldi on their face.
Mm.
But these are the differences that I could find out in the reasonings.
So yeah, I do recall, as as I've gone to the Govil, Tamil Mandir,
Yeah.
that even with guys, if
Yeah.
someone's head is covered, no, beg your pardon, I think it was with ladies. I think I'd seen it. Um, yeah, if my mother had gone in, for example, with her head covered, they would ask for her to take that covering off.
All right.
I think, if I recall. Uh, so yeah, one of the other things that I absolutely used to love to visit every year when I went to the Corville was the temple I go to, the mandir I go to is the Aman Corville in Ealing.
Yeah.
And I mean, the central Devi, I mean, central deity there is Devi herself, is the goddess. And so, given she plays such an important part there, every year they have a Chandi Yajna. And oh, it's just a sight to see. So I try every year. Obviously, last year I couldn't, but I try every year to go where they have, about 20 odd Brahmins sitting there, give or take a few, and they're all reciting mantra together while performing the yajna. And for me, that's quite a glorious event to witness.
Oh,
Those sorts of things I just don't see within my North Indian traditions,
oh,
at least not here. But I think the way that the Gorvils are designed here, they allow for that.
yeah.
I think it's just the nature of the place itself, the architecture. Even the architecture, I mean, the image that you have behind you, that's what one imagines when they think of a Tamil
Yeah.
mandir.
Usually in Tamil Mandir, what we have basically is we have the central Garbhagriha, and that's Garbhagriha. Before you enter that, I mean, we are not allowed to enter it. It's only the pujari or the ayyer who can be in the Garbhagriha, but it's enclosed in these shells again, and
Yeah,
each separated by doors. And
yeah.
that Garbhagriha, it has that kalash, the gopuram, with the kalash on top of the Garbhagriha. And that's where it's thought that all that divine energy at that point just goes upward from there, from where the deity is placed.
Hmm.
And that's a really highly magnetic field as well, which is why we do the circumambulation around the temple.
And that's another thing that we don't tend to find in North Indian mandirs.
Oh,
The
yes.
murtis are
Yeah.
at the back, and that's a real significant one. The murtis
Yeah.
at the back, so you can't circumambulate them.
Yeah.
Uh, if I'm not mistaken, there's one in Wembley, a North Indian mandir, and you can, I think, do that with certain murtis. I can't remember,
Yeah.
but most certainly that's what you can do
Yeah.
in southern mandir, Govil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we always have, like, before we go to the main deity, there's like this Dwarpalak, or you either have a Nandi in a Shiva temple or
Hmm.
some small deity in the front, or the animals which are significant to that god.
Hmm.
So you pray there and then you go to the main temple. But yeah, definitely in terms of architecture as well, there's a stark difference between both the temple architectures.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. It was really enjoyable to speak to you about this. I mean, I could have a conversation for a very long time
Yeah.
about the various similarities, differences between North and South cultural aspects.
That's right. Yeah.
But, years ago, I decided when I first came across the Corville back in, like I said, 2006, it got me interested in Tamil. So I'm into my languages, but it got me interested in Tamil. So I decided so I learned to read and write it. I can't speak it. That requires a whole grammar, and I just haven't had a chance to. But I will do one day. It's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
So it is something
Yeah,
I do
sure.
want to do.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. I think speaking to you, I could find that there was no accent, because usually Tamil is spoken in its own pure accent. It's difficult, but because you're teaching Sanskrit, probably your pronunciations are good.
No, I like to kind of just listen to how people are saying it and mimic it.
Yeah.
That's the way really to learn to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, sorry, in terms of feminism, actually, I had written like a summary. So
Sure.
I just wanted to say that summary as well. Um, I came across this interesting fact, which I mean, it's everybody knows it, but every time we take the name of gods, we say Sita Ram, Radha Krishna, Uma Maheshwari. We're always putting the woman before the man. So we're always giving importance to Nari Shakti first before we give it to the man or the idol. And also in Hinduism, we use the term Ardhanarishwar.
Yeah.
So Ardhanarishwar again means the same thing, that half of Ishwar is a Nari. And I think these ideas in Hindu culture and in our Vedic traditions already signify women to a very top level. So we really don't need to be talking about women rights, because in Hinduism, we have considered women as our deity, as our goddess itself. So all we need to probably think about is empowering women and giving them, good opportunities.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, thank you for that. Those final words. Yeah. So to conclude this, so this was the Hindu Women's Festival for 2020. Thank you to Manju Stalin from Liverpool, representing Sangamam UK. I'm Dr. Rishi Handa, and namaskar and vanakkam.
Thank you for the opportunity. Vanakkam.
Vanakkam.